busy end of the year to have a conversation. I was super excited about the initiatives happening in Indonesia after Noel shared a little bit of the background there. So thanks for that.
Oh, you are welcome to record the conversation if you like.
Yeah, that was something that I wanted to ask because my colleague, it's a bit too early for her, so she might not join and then she will catch up later.
Okay, no problem.
1 second.
Recording in progress.
Okay, so we are very spread around in terms of time zones, so thanks for
So where is your location?
she's in Canada.
Oh, okay.
I'm in Brazil, and well, so we're spread out.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I always thought ISOC is in the US or something, but actually it's spread.
Yeah, it's spread. We have an office. Our headquarters is in the United States, but most of the staff is spread around the world. So
Wow.
have things like that. So person from Brazil talking to you like I don't know 10 time zones behind, or or something like that.
Okay.
But just to get started, like you were giving a quick introduction on the email. You told me about community networks in Indonesia. You told me they were illegal there and all of that, and I can relate to that because some of them here in Brazil are also facing kind of the same challenges. But I just wanted to understand a little bit more if you could share like the concept of community networks in Indonesia, and we start from there.
Okay. To make things easier for you, the Indonesian government actually have a law that those who wants to build network must receive license from the government. So basically that's the law. Okay. Now, because of that, many of the, of course, only operator like in the past, mostly big operators that can have build the network, like the internet and everything. That's big operator. As we know, the equipment becoming cheaper, very cheap, and becoming very user friendly. Because of that, many of the Indonesian can buy their own equipment and building the network in their neighborhood. So that's the where the conflict is coming from. So on the other side, the government think that's only operator can build. On the other side, the people buy their own equipment and they build the network. Because and the problem is when they take the bandwidth from the operator. The operator insists that actually the community actually stealing their bandwidth. Because
so they take like one like I don't know one payment for the operator and then they split it out.
Exactly.
Okay.
The other problem is the operator paying the tax and the community network not paying the tax. That's it. As simple as that. And we actually introducing this technology since when? Before 2000. So like 30 years ago. We introducing this. It started from cyber cafe. When we introduce, so okay, if you want to reduce the cost, we can build a cyber cafe, and then they think, okay, this is only one room, we can connect our neighborhood from the cyber cafe. That's when the network is growing, okay, because of that. So because this is like 30 years ago, today we have about 60,000 community network in Indonesia. Out of 60,000, because the government is chasing the community network, like some of them actually going to jail. They take the person, they take the equipment and put people in jail. So some of them apply for license from the government. So today, 600 of this 60,000 receive license from the government. the 600 ISP is becoming part of 1,100 Indonesian ISP. Like Indonesia now have 1,100 ISP. 600 is coming from this community network. So more than half of the Indonesian ISP is actually community network ISP. And then to give you some idea, the most of them, some of them still using Wi-Fi, but many of them are using fiber optics now, because the like the router for the fiber to the home, the router itself costs only like what, like $500. So it's affordable. They buy the routers and they split the fiber optic to the neighborhood. The cost for fiber optics, it's only about like what, 800 rupiah, which is what, less than $1 per meter. No, yeah, less than $1, like 50 cents per meter.
That's pretty cheap. Yeah,
that's very cheap. That's why we built the network very, very dangerously.
So, but the ones that use the fiber are only the ones that get the license, or everyone is using the fiber?
Everyone. Okay, the trick is like this. The trick is, in the past, people still afraid for building the community network because they are using Wi-Fi. So Wi-Fi is frequencies. In Indonesia, because of the during the World War II, during the revolution, frequency is highly regulated because frequency is very strategic and can be used for military purposes and so on. So frequency is very highly regulated. So when we use Wi-Fi, we sort of using it like not really open to public. Okay, but in fiber optic, because this is cable, is not highly regulated as wireless. So people can lay out their own cable. Sometimes they use their own cable for, this is not fiber optic. They can use their own cable for intercom from house to house. So they are thinking the cable is something like that. But now they use fiber optic for this. So that's becoming more dangerous.
But at least it's not spectrum related, which is easier, I guess.
Yeah, it's not spectrum related. It's easier. No regulation, no tower. The important thing is no tower, because tower also can be easily seen. The government can see the tower and they check on the tower. They ask for permission. They ask for many things for tower. But for fiber optic, they basically they don't see it. So it's unregulated.
And so you mentioned, so you have 1,100 ISPs or official ISPs.
Yeah, official ISP in Indonesia.
600 of them are community networks, and what about the other 500? Like, are they
50,000? The either 50,000, that's illegal.
Yeah, but like the official other 500 that are not community networks, are they big ISPs? Or
no, that's basically small. Small network connecting the neighborhood, villages, sometimes the apartment, like single apartment, like many apartment in it, in the building. They're building the community network within the apartment.
Okay, that's pretty cool. And then do they have like how do they operate in terms of business? Because like, do they charge fees as well for users? How does that work?
Okay. That's the tricky questions. Okay, in reality, they are collecting money from the users. They are collecting money. The problem is, if they make an invoice, the invoice becoming the evidence for the government to revoke the network. So the way they collect money is like this. Okay, they will say this is not for the internet. This is the money for sharing within the community, for building the community, because you share, you give money for the community, you get the internet for free. So they are not selling the internet. So in the invoice, it says, okay, this is money for community activity. Nothing to do with the internet, but because you are giving the money for the community, you get the internet for free. That's save everybody.
community contribution. Yeah.
Exactly.
But like, if they don't wanna have evidence or anything like that, how do you know that there are like 60,000 of them? Because like, I'm thinking about the experience here in Brazil. I know that there are several of networks like this one, but they really don't, like, we don't even know how many they are because they want to fly under the radar, right? They don't want us to know that they exist. So like, how do you get to the number of 60,000?
Interestingly, nearly all of them using MikroTik. Okay, so all of them using MikroTik routers because it's cheap. Okay, now in MikroTik organize MikroTik user meeting every year. And everybody knows, including my friend Valens Riyadi. Valens is like the god of Indonesian MikroTik. He's the one who organized this community MikroTik gathering and everything. So he told me, oh no, I think I know how many community network in Indonesia, because all of them actually MikroTik users and they always come to this gathering. So he knows exactly how many community network.
That's interesting. Oh, hope that nobody tells, I don't know, the police or anything that, okay, come to this gathering, because that would be terrible. Okay.
But this is like a huge community. Like, this is big community. Even the ISP afraid of this community. Like the ISP, the government, because this is like big technical guys, like a lot of technical guys. So they are very like what what is this in English? I'm looking for the English word. They basically salute this community. They respect this community.
Like an informal technical community forming under the, yeah, that's pretty cool.
And these people actually behind, so all this technical guy is actually behind all the operation of the Indonesian ISP. So they have the power.
Okay, and then if there's this this whole community there and like people know about it, why is like what changes do you need to make in the Indonesian regulations or policies in general to make sure the community networks are recognized and like able to exist and so on?
Basically, it's like this. Okay, we know the power as the community network. The problem, the government is stick to the regulation. The regulation says those who want to deploy the network must receive license from the government. That's big problem. Okay, it's okay if they want to stick to that kind of regulation, but I think they need to open their eyes. They need to be more fair to see the Indonesian strength, that we actually very good and big, and make the industry more balanced between the big company and the small one. Because all this, to be honest, the big ISP, the big operator, they will not go to villages, they will not go to rural areas, because basically all the Indonesian telecommunication company are private company basically. So no, like the government owned company, like the Indonesian Telco, they only have 51% share of the company, the Indonesian government. So they have to look for money. Now, because they're looking for money, they are not going to village, rural, and everything. Those who goes to village, rural, and everything, actually the small ones. But the government actually wants to get rid of the small one. That's becoming a problem for the village and everything in Indonesia, because they are actually the one who create the demand. They are building the demand. They are building the people in Indonesia. When this demand is becoming bigger, the demand is taken by this big company. That's the bad side. That's happening with the Indonesian cyber cafe actually. So in the past, in the year 2000, a lot at that time the Indonesian government ISP, the big company, they actually more on telecommunication services only. They are not looking at the internet. So the cyber cafe is booming. They have to teach people how to use the internet, how to create an email account in Gmail. At the time there is no Gmail, I think. They have Yahoo and so on. And so they build email account, they use IRC and everything. So basically they teach the people, and the people actually, the demand is going up. When the demand is up, then the big company take all the demand, shut down the cyber cafe. That's unfair, actually, I think. So that's what happened, actually. That's what I'm really need help to make it more balanced between the big one and the small one. Which actually the small one actually have many benefit to the Indonesian community, the village and everything.
Yeah, so from what you're telling me, it sounds like it's even hard for a small internet service provider to legally exist. Like if someone wants to open their own ISP and register for a license and do everything, like they must face some challenges. Even
Exactly.
That, like step by step, right?
Exactly. Because the regulation have a lot of prerequisites. You must have a certain number of router, certain numbers of service level agreement, and to meet that kind of stuff is more tough.
And that like all those requirements must favor like whoever speak enough.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Exactly.
Like you. Yeah, and so like, have there been I don't know, big efforts in Indonesia to try to change those regulations? You mentioned that's something you want to do. Like, are there any changes that you have seen in the past few years or anything like that?
To make it simple like this, the government they are relying on the government owned ISP for infrastructure, but when we go to the application layer, then because the application layer we have social media, we have YouTube, we have everything. That's actually will impact the government. That will impact the image of the government. So the government will react on those that impact them directly. So they actually more keen on changing the regulation for the application layer, but not the infrastructure, the backbone. The backbone, they rely on the operator only, basically. So they keep out of the community network, but they keep the operator. For example, only last week, this is not directly related to internet. I am a ham radio. I'm a ham radio myself. Have been 30 years in ham radio. So basically, we play around with radio. We create a radio network. Only last week, the government set up the regulation for the ham radio that we can only work up to 400 megahertz. So above that frequency, we cannot work on it. In the international ham radio, we can work up to 250 gigahertz. So we fight. But finally, within 1 week, they changed the regulation. So we have to do those kind of fight that actually in the international community is acceptable. In the Indonesian government, they changed the regulation, so they repressed us to like move forward. So that's I'm telling the government, if you do this, you do these things, you actually repress our ability to be able to move forward. So that's finally they changed. So it's more tough in the lower level because the mass is smaller than the application layer. The application layer, we have the whole Indonesian people is becoming the mass, and they will react if the government do something bad. But in the lower level, the mass is only the operator, the technical guy. So it's more difficult for us to fight.
And you probably it sounds like there's no support in in any of the government agencies or anything like that, or is there I don't know a ministry
not directly. I'll give you this the other story. In the past, before the year 2000, Wi-Fi is licensed in Indonesia. We have to pay how many? 10,000 US dollar per Wi-Fi, per access point, per year to the government.
2.5 gigahertz?
Yes.
Like
exactly. We have to pay 10,000 US dollar per access point to the government. That's crazy, right? So, this is year 2000. So, our tactic is more brutal than now at that time. So, I write a book on how to create low-cost internet access using Wi-Fi. Basically, we can use Wi-Fi, and behind it, I put a wok. You know wok for cooking? So wok becoming like parabolic antenna, parabolic reflector, and it can make the distance longer. People adopting this technology, and we creating lots of long distance Wi-Fi network. Okay, at that time, 2003 or 2004, for the first time, there is a World Summit on Information Society. WSIS, World Summit on Information Society, 2003 or 2004, I forgot. So I received 2 tickets from CERN and from SIDA, not SIDA, IDRC in Canada. So IDRC and CERN give me a ticket to go to this summit to tell the world how to build low-cost network using Wi-Fi. Okay. Because of that, the government, the Indonesian government is what? They see, okay, like the Indonesian becoming the example for the world. Because of that, finally, 5 January 2005, so the pressure from the international community becoming so high, because everybody adopting this kind of approach, the pressure becoming so high, the Indonesian government finally, 5 January 2005, the minister signed an act, Wi-Fi is free. So, from Indonesian side, they do not support at first, but because the approach is adopted by many international countries, and we actually, they give me ticket to give workshop in South Africa, in many areas, and I always report to the Indonesian media that we actually sharing our knowledge in this country and such, and then that's actually creating a huge pressure to the government. Finally, 5 January 2005, they liberate Wi-Fi 2.4. 1 year later, they liberate 5.8. So Wi-Fi is liberated. The problem is, those who want to provide internet access, they still need ISP license. So Wi-Fi is free, but the license is not free.
Of course.
We have to pay dearly, to be honest.
If you would list out like a few things that you think would be critical for this to change in Indonesia, like top thing would be I don't know, free licensing for ISPs or something like that. What would those things be, like the ideal scenario of change?
To be honest, free licensing is nearly impossible because the operator have to pay tax. So for us, yeah, okay, free is impossible. But what we need is more equal, no, like what's it, equal opportunity, affordable, yeah, affordable or more. I am looking for the English word. Affordable may be like the sort of the correct words. So affordable licensing or more. If we go to court. Between bad and worse, what you call it, more balance. So like more balance, not leaning towards the other side, but it's more. I'm looking for the. Let me check using Google Translate.
Yeah, that's fine. But as I understand it, it's like just making sure that we have.
Oh, more fair.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's more fair for everybody. Okay, so that's what I mean. So that's the first one. It's more fair. The problem is the second one is those who work hard to connecting the village and so on. They need more incentive because right now they don't receive any incentive. So if we can be fair and give more incentive for those who work hard to connecting the rural area and so on, that will be greater. The third one is from the technology side. Many of because the pressure we receive in the community, we have to be more creative in terms of technology. To be honest, the technology coming from the China or Europe or everything, most likely we need to modify some of them to suit our needs. So I really hope they can recognize the ability of this technical guy to build their own technology. The problem with the Indonesians, the government, I mean, if we build the technology, we have to get what? We have not permission, basically. We have to sort of license. We bring the technology to the government and we have to pay fee to the government. And that's big fee to get the license that this particular technology can be used on the network. So they have that kind of thing.
I know, like we have similar ones here.
I think we have to work together. I help you guys, and you help us as well.
Bring community networks everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so like those are three, and then is there anything?
I think that's the main ones. Because basically in technology we have people, process, and technology. From people side, if like process is the regulation and stuff, regulation, policy is process, technology is technology. So the process is more on the regulation side. If the regulation can be more favorable to the community network, the technology technology also favorable to the community network, we can build the people ourselves. But these two, I need your help to make pressure to the government. Because from the Indonesian side is tough, it's more difficult. The mindset of the Indonesian government is something like this. Not government, I think, more the Indonesian people, they more believe on those coming from outside Indonesia. If you tell them, hey, Indonesian government, can I ask your people to share the knowledge in Brazil? That's becoming a big issue in Indonesia because okay, the Indonesian technology is actually accepted by Brazilian. That's very interesting. I think we need to do something with the regulation and the technology side. So we have to be more to these guys. So that kind of stuff. So by inviting us or basically acknowledging the struggle, that's actually will change the mindset of the government. If we say it to the government, they will not believe and they don't change.
Yeah, both internal and external pressure is good, and that's good that you're telling me that, because I can relay that to our advocacy team, because of course that would be something that we need to think about, especially about like licensing is a big thing that we are trying to support and in general at ISOC, so it's good. And just one follow-up question on the 3 points that you made. So, like you mentioned that the second one was incentives for the people that are working hard to connect
to rural,
areas and so on. Like, what would those incentives be? Because, like, of course, besides making it easier to get a license and like the equipment and all of that, like, but what kind of incentives did you have in mind?
For example, like this. Actually, in the Indonesian regulation, they have what is called USO, Universal Service Obligation, from the telecommunication regulation. The problem in USO implementation in Indonesia, the government take the money from USO. The government take the money, the government buy the equipment, and the government put the equipment in village. The problem is no one run the equipment on village. Maybe I have to share some of the picture. This is, I will share. Okay, I will share my screen. This is the result of Indonesian USO. Okay. Oops, what happened here? Okay, here. Okay. Mobile internet Kominfo. So the Indonesian Communication and Information Ministry, they used to build mobile internet, okay, and that's cost a lot of money. And this is what happened now. It's becoming a junk yard, and this costs 500 billion rupiah, becoming scrap. So that's the mindset of the Indonesian government basically. They create project, they take money from us. They will not give incentive for us who work in rural and everything. They take money, they buy equipment, they put and scrap. That's it. So it's sad.
Okay, yeah, like it's not the first time I've seen something like that. That's terrible. Okay, yeah, it would be a lot better to have incentives for people to actually manage stuff on the
exactly
ground.
So the money is there and a lot of money, but they are not spending the money wisely basically. So I'm requesting, I know, so the money is there. If they can spend the money wisely, the people will benefit from this activity.
Yeah, and from what you're telling me, I see that there's a very good narrative of people are trying to do this.
Exactly.
Even though it's super hard. Like, and people will do this even though it's super hard. Like, just make it easier for people to do it.
Exactly. And they are willing to put their money for this. Like the people in the village, because this is like their future. They have to struggle for their future. They are willing to put their money for these things. If the government make this thing easier, that's make everybody happy, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And like, do you think it would be possible for us to talk to one of those community network operators or anything like that, or people that are using it? Maybe one of the registered ones, so that we don't face any. You don't face any problems with the ones that are not registered.
Okay, I can ask WENAS then. WENAS is used to be the community network. There are two people, I think, Wenas and Teddy. Wenas used to be the community network, and now he's becoming the advisor of the Indonesian Internet Service Provider Association. So he's in both sides now, but he's still struggling for the. He's still fighting for the community network. So that's one. There are several people actually. So I can introduce you by email. So hopefully you guys can talk to each other after this.
Yeah, because it would be good. Like that, I love everything you told me, but it would be also good to get like
exactly
people that are operating the networks, telling this like their own story, and then even people who are using the community networks, like telling, okay, so why do they actually need to have it on their building or anything like that, and why they couldn't have it before, and all of that, so that we could make a strong case.
Exactly. Thank you. Yes. I will send you email. I sent email to Noel, actually, Wenas. So I introduced Wenas to Noel, but I will introduce to you as well then. No problem.
That would be perfect. But I'm really excited about this. I'm happy that we can tell the story, because it's more common than you think, I guess. That's the problem.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. I think we have to fight together.
Yeah.
I love it.
Let's do that. Yeah, I'm excited. Thank you for sharing all of this.
Thank you. How can I call you, Jodo or
João?
João. Oh, okay. Brazilian name is more difficult for me.
Am I pronouncing your name right? Ono?
Yes.
Mark Ono?
Yeah. Easy. Very easy. Your name is more difficult for me.
Oh no, yeah. Anything that has one of those accents over the letters, it's hard for anyone that's not a Portuguese speaker to pronounce like that.
Okay then. Okay. Thank you then.
Okay, thank you so much once again for making the time. I know it's after a long trip and the end of the year, craziness everywhere. So thank you for making the time, and let's continue by email, but that was super helpful.
Okay, thank you, Zoan. Sorry.
Perfect. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, bye then. Okay, see you.
Bye, have a great
Happy
day.
holiday. Thank you. Okay, bye.
Bye.